November 2025 is shaping up to be a global turning point and the most revealing month. So here's your November psychic forecast of changing timelines, huge plot twists, huge discoveries in science, and around 3i Atlas. And this is also going to be a very rough month for Donald Trump, which I will explain in a few minutes in this November psychic forecast. So hi, welcome to the Medium channel. This is Adam, and I had a vision not that long ago about an event in the Northeast Pacific, maybe south of Alaska, west of Oregon, towards the axial seamount where the volcanoes erupt periodically, and the Arcadia subduction zone, which is a subduction zone off of the Pacific Northwest capable of producing large megathrust earthquakes that could lead to tsunamis. So I had a vision of waves propagating out of that area. And I've noticed there's been some increase in activity lately after I had that vision, actually. It was in September. But so I think we have to keep an eye out for there. And in general, lots of more in the way of earthquakes. So I think we're going to have a very, very active month of the rest of the year that's going to make 2025 one of the most, if not the most active seismological years in recorded history. So watch around LA, watch around that area. LA's highlighted in general for fire, flood, and mudslides and earthquake activities. That's around the San Andreas, the Ring of Fire area in general. Keep an eye on Campi Flegrei. I had a vision also of people in hazmat suits in the desert pulling out from the rubble. So I think around Iran or desert region has to watch out for a big earthquake. Around the Mediterranean, the usual areas, the Philippines, Russia, Japan, and there's other areas, and I've detailed that more on a longer video, but I've got a lot that I want to get to. But just suffice it to say, the Ring of Fire area is going to be lit up. Also, I had a vision of more activity in the Atlantic. We have to start to watch that area. And after that vision, I think it was the day after the live stream, there was a 6.5 earthquake off of the Lesser Antilles, so that's the Atlantic. So keep an eye on that area. Activities picking up there as well, and numerous volcanic eruptions. Keep an eye on the Pacific Northwest, because I think that area is getting more active for the potential for eruptive activity around Mount St. Helen, around Washington. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. The big mountain, it'll come back to me. In Washington, Mount Rainier, thank you. It just came back to me. And also, more in the way of atmospheric events, record weathers, and solar activity peaking. So I think we're going to have a lot of disruptive solar events, especially around the full moon, around that time. And some of that is being propagated by 3i Atlas. And remember, prophecy is not an exact science. Not everything said by me or other psychics are going to come true. The idea is that we pick up on the energies of the now and either get feelings or visions and propagate that out into the future. But the timelines are hard to pick up on. So some of this stuff will happen after this month. And the idea is to prepare you, but also to understand that because I'm picking up on things in the now and projecting that in the future, from this now moment, there's infinite possibilities moving forward. There's infinite currents of time. So if we understand and prepare for the possible worst, but we project positivity into the collective, it could change those timelines and we could get the best case scenarios out of that. So on that note, let's talk about 3i Atlas, because that's something that's really interesting. In the prior video, very recently, in the last couple of weeks, I told you guys that when it reaches perihelion, which happened on the 29th, what we're going to find is that it's going to be a lot brighter than what they anticipate. It's going to change colors, and there's going to be huge gas and plasma releases, and maybe even releases of heavier elements. So far, 2 out of those 3 are verified. It is brighter according to sensors. We can't really see it yet from Earth-based telescopes, but orbiting telescopes and around the sun and sensors can pick that up, and it's being shown to have turned blue. So more to come. So let me let you know what I was getting. And also, I did remote viewing back in August, and then science validated a lot of what I picked up through channeling remote viewing. So we've been on the pulse with it. So I feel confident that a lot of what I say moving forward will verify also. So it's been out of view, right? Discoveries, unusual composition, and behavior. So that's part of the secrets that are going to be revealed. I believe on the physical 3D, it is an interstellar object, though we live in a multi-dimensional reality, and on other levels of consciousness, I believe it's more than that. But I haven't gotten anything specifically to lead me to believe that it's an alien craft. That's not off the table. It's possible, especially given the lottery odds based on its trajectory, its path, its behavior, and all of that, which is why Avi Loeb and other more open-minded researchers are open to that possibility, but approaching very cautiously from science at the same time. So let's see, where are we? So more to be revealed about its composition. I do believe that some sound patterns are going to be identified using sort of a technological dog whistle, as it were, to be able to pick up sounds that we can't hear. Leading to more conjecture if it's extraterrestrial, because I think people are going to believe or conjecture that maybe it's a language or communication, the sound patterns that are discovered. And the question, is it communicating with us, comes up. And the perihelion, that happens. So it's still very close to the sun, it's opposite side of the sun from the earth. I do believe that it's energetically magnifying the energy to the sun, or using the sun to magnify its energies to transmit more energy and frequency to the collective, to us, as part of our spiritual growth and our spiritual upgrade, basically, and the human collective. And it'll pass very close to the earth on December the 19th, right around the winter solstice, so more to happen. In the meantime, as it's in the position it is for the month of November, it's going to be firing up some huge solar flares. And that's something that I predicted a while back, that on the perihelion, that there's going to be some of the biggest solar flares of the entire solar maximum. And that's happening. It's on the far side of the sun and aimed directed right at the object of supercharging with plasma and energy as we speak. And it's changing a lot of it. But I also believe that in that position, it's transmitting and magnifying information to us. So let me jump back into my notes. I do believe there's going to be some Earth-directed coronal mass ejection solar flares, some big ones possibly. So, especially around the full moon, which is next week, where the sunspot group that's been firing off the flares towards 3i Atlas, when it's rotating on the far side of the sun, it's coming back and it appears to be remaining active. So this object, it's electromagnetic, it affects the circuitry of the sun, the inner solar system, and there may be consciousness all combined that's exciting the sun and creating more activity. Now, solar flares can be disruptive because they can disrupt the power grid and communication, but it's also energy that's coming to the earth, that's charging the fields and the conscious fields as well. So my feeling is technically it's an object from outer space, but that's just the 3D perspective and awareness. I don't think it's a craft so much, but more like a beacon, a communicator of sorts, I want to say. And as I see it as a life form that we don't understand. I'll put it that way. Based on what we know about science, it's a rock, but I don't think that the composition can be explained by conventional means, and it may be a life form we don't understand that's made out of minerals. And I do believe, on that note, one of the visions that I had is that it's got its own luminescence, like like almost like an equivalent of bioluminescence, even though from our perspective it's not biological. So um, in higher realms, where are we? Or levels of consciousness beyond our understanding, it is communicating and interacting with the earth fields. There's intelligent purpose and consciousness, an emissary of sorts, maybe from other dimensional realities or other star systems, that's helping to guide humanity as they've always done, that we're not alone during this very important juncture of mass human awakening and evolution that's happening, transmitting information into the fields to assist in our next level of evolution, teaching us we're all connected, we're part of a greater network, as it were, a great web of life that extends to this and other dimensions as well as other planetary systems. And we connect with it by opening the heart, and then we receive the information and communication for our own personal upgrades and our own superhuman abilities and our DNA activations coming in line based on that. I believe it's energizing the sun and the earth, purging the old, and helping for the old unsustainable systems on earth to fall, and so forth. On the note of spiritual upgrade, I had a vision of the second coming of Christ. I don't think it's literal, but I think it's an energetic, it's symbolic of a huge spiritual awakening, and perhaps a new spiritual teacher emerges, new spiritual lessons, or stuff of that nature, new signs of a Messiah, depending on your belief system and all that good stuff. But many more, as a result, I believe, are going to have spiritual awakenings, and there's going to be more appreciation for spirituality that's going to start to blend more in the collective. And we may even see that changing in like politics and people coming out with things that seem a little bit more spiritual and suggest a little bit more awareness. I don't think they'll be conscious of it, but I think we're going to see it. So many have more spiritual awakenings, and we begin to unravel the old, basically. We see signs, subtle ones, of change, and some not so subtle ones also. But there's a big evolution and a revolution happening in consciousness. And there's tremendously high energy affecting the planet more than ever. And like I was saying before, prepare for the possibility of things like communications or even grid failures, especially next week when we are subject to very high solar radiation and activity. But all of this energy, and I'll tell you, on the 29th, I really felt it. That's why I added that part about consciousness, because I really felt the transmission of energy. And a lot of people said they had really strange days. It's affecting our sleep, our perceptions, even our health. And between the stress of the old control systems, the politicians causing a lot of chaos and fear, as well as the higher frequencies that are affecting us, it really taxes our nervous system and bodies and energetic fields. So we need our practices. We need our spiritual practices, breath work, yoga, or an equivalent spiritual exercise. And all that stuff is very, very crucial right now. So word to the wise. Now, also more record weather, I believe, is on tap across the world. Tornado outbreak likely, I think, maybe around the Ohio Valley to the southeast of the U.S. One more major tropical storm or hurricane in the Atlantic. The flood drought cycle intensifying around the world. And more, I have more specific weather predictions in the longer video, but I don't want this to be hugely long. So we're going to move on from that. More sky events. I'm seeing 2 more significant sky events, and a month and a period filled with wonders of the skies, unveiling their secrets to us, like 3i Atlas is unveiling its secrets. Scientists are going to discover more also. There may be another interstellar object. There's some thing of a new moon or an asteroid that gets caught up in the Earth rotation. That's already happening. Some conjecture that maybe that's extraterrestrial also. And the fact that there's been 4 comets that have converged right when 3i Atlas would make its closest approach, which is hugely unusual. Again, lends fuel to the fire. Is this extraterrestrial? This is more than just a space rock. But anyway, moving right along, I do think that there's more military invasions we're going to see in this and other countries. So more of that. It's very revolutionary energy, very much an energy change. Military invasions ramp up. Big reveals of corruption. Big, big, big. It's a 9 universal year of endings and completions. And November is a 20 universal month. You get that by adding November, the number 11. You don't reduce master numbers in numerology. So 11, 22, or 33. You don't reduce to a single number. So it's 11 plus the universal 9 makes 20. Now 20 is the number of awakening, initiation, trials by fire, tests by fire, and it's the judgment card in the tarot. So again, this is like a new messiah kind of an energy that's really starting to take shape. It may not all happen in November, and it may be a little bit later, but the energy is really happening. Also, 20 reduces to 2, so there's a lot about different countries or different governments or organizations. So 2 is about reflection, it's about intuition, but it's also about partnership. So we see that evolving in the world also. But generally speaking, it is that 9 universal year where the old is completing, and that's going to lead to a higher and a better reality in society. But the transition can be very rough. So expect new alliances around the world, big spike in revolutionary activity globally, big demonstrations for fairness, democracy, etc. In the USA and other countries, more military force against people, against civilians. That's, I see, picking up also. Domestic terrorism or terrorism from within. I picked that up months ago for the city of Chicago specifically, and then we had all the ICE invasions, and there were reports of heinous acts against innocent people. So I'm seeing more news, or at least activity around Africa, things around colonization and destabilization of governments. I had a vision, but in the vision, it was like colonizing based on rare earth minerals and resources, but it wasn't countries, it was corporations. I mean, I think it's a little bit symbolic, but that might be on the news as well. And also, on that note, expect a lot of finger pointing and gaps in the recovery efforts in Jamaica and the Caribbean after that horrific storm happened. Global tensions in general are on the rise in November. U.S. and Canada may be a thing that comes up more in the news and disagreements there. Now, the U.S. government shutdown, we're in that now, likely doesn't get resolved until mid-month at the earliest, probably later, with some kind of a compromise package. And we have a situation where Trump blames the Democrats blame Trump. Nothing gets done. So some laws don't get passed. Some acts get enacted by the president that normally would require congressional approval, but there's an emergency act. I don't know all the laws, but long and the short is that acts and measures are able to pass through without any scrutiny from other branches of government. So that's interesting. And on that note, I'm still seeing a lot of people leaving the government, more firings, general destabilization in general. And I was saying, for last summer forecast, I think, it might have even been the spring, but recently, how I was seeing the systems of the world really starting to buckle and fail this year. And this is but one example, the U.S. government shutdown, one of the longest in history. And what's following it is an example of how that there's a destabilization of the systems of this world. The systems of the world are buckling because they're not fair. They're not sustainable in the new energies that are more built on love and powered by and for the people. Right now, it's a system of control, power over others, and money and all that stuff. So it's got to fail. It's happening incrementally. Governments and global systems buckle, lead to shortages later in the year to 2026. Supply shortages, maybe food shortages. And it's not a bad idea, especially next week, in case the grid goes down with these large solar flares. I mean, nothing might happen, but the chances are much higher. So have like extra food, medication supplies, and all that stuff. I was also getting an image of the Pope more in the news, being more vocal. There may be changing around the Vatican, changing around a couple of world leaders' health or positions. Watch England or Great Britain, watch France. Other areas, of course, are on the table. Also, lots of potential problems for Donald Trump, the U.S. government, U.S. presidency also come up. I feel like he'll likely stay in office throughout the month, but I had a feeling, or I guess a feeling, lack of a better word, of something potentially happening later in the month that could suddenly change the presidency or change things. And my feeling about that is, let's pray for the best. I'd much rather see a change in the presidency based on growing awareness and what's best for the people, and not like an event or a catastrophe or foul play or anything like that. Originally, I predicted he would be elected and then last about 2 years or so. But lately, I've been feeling around February 2026. So there's a chance that things may come up that may lead to a change in U.S. government, U.S. presidency. Though health is still top concern, as I said, it would be long before it came up in the news. That might be a reason cited, but there's other things that are going on. I'm being shown a scandal surfacing, maybe more than one, and could be questions of allocation of government funding, how votes are handled, and things of that nature. Mounting legal pressures against him and bipartisan pushback, I think, could lead to some changes, and then there's health issues going on. Again, it's a month of high volatility between the sun and the earth, world politics, and structured and falling, a revolutionary activity, and I think that might be affecting things going on with the U.S. presidency, with Donald Trump, and I just think there's going to be a lot against him. I think it's going to be a very rough month for him. But right now, I feel like he's still going to stay in office. So more in the longer video, right? But the secret is, okay, here's the secret. And I explained that in the longer video, that I believe that he doesn't believe he's going to be around for much longer. I'm not saying one way or another. I think this is what he believes. And that he believes, now not me. There's a little confusion in the longer video. This is not my belief. This is what I believe that Donald Trump believes, that he has limited time to make a difference in the world, to improve his karma, to improve the state of the world, so he can go down in history as the president that made a difference, that created world peace and such. You can believe that or not. It may be feeding narcissism. I'm not here to make judgments one way or another, but I believe that's part of the energy, and that he's likely to really try to push things more and more. Not all of it may be fair or just. Some of it may be, some of it may be amazing. We don't know. So let's stay open to all possibilities and not get triggered by all the stuff that's going on. Stay in our hearts, stay in our power, and know that there's a higher force or authority that really dictates a lot of the movements in U.S. and world politics and government. So anyway, moving right along, I feel like there'll be some thawing of tension in East Europe, in Ukraine, NATO, Russia, that area. Tense ceasefire may get broken, but then reinstated around Gaza, plans for Gaza. Could be negotiations around Russia, Ukraine, NATO, etc. towards later in the month and into 2026, and hopefully en route to peace. And more major leaders, world figures stepping down, forced down in this energy of revolution and evolution. Power realignments around Asia, the Middle East, Europe, etc. Greater forces than the government in charge of things. So, what I'm trying to say is that the idea of war, I believe a lot of it is dictated by higher authorities than the governments, and it feeds a certain agenda. But I think things are shifting, and their agenda is going to be better fed by negotiating peace now. So I think that's why that's going to go in that direction. But still, new wars and conflicts will be breaking out. I'm seeing explosions, nuclear stuff, invasions, underwater stuff. Even the image of a cruise ship being affected, not by war, but something along those natures, like an image or vision of a boat going down with a lot of people, but a rescue. Not everybody dies. Still a lot of military intervention, new battles. Okay, and big movements against digital ID. So I think that's part of the evolution and revolution. Big pushback against that, AI surveillance and stuff like that. I feel like big cyber attacks are on the table for November, affecting banking systems, government, etc., and a lot of energy towards awareness and understanding of some of the projects that are in play and some of the agendas that are in play also. In general, big exposure of corruption. It just can't sustain in these higher energies. Indications are that we'll see more world leadership and global leadership viewed by more and more people as tantamount to organized crime, basically. Anyways, on that note, there's more that I have to say about the economy. It's going to be pretty up and down and volatile. I think the measures to correct the economy could lead to recession, towards 2026. So I think bigger challenges are coming next year. But I think that there could be a little bit of a crash, here and there. 2 new tariffs proposed, things of that nature. But I've got all that information for you and a lot more on a longer video if you're interested. And that's going to be right over here. So this is just sort of the outline. I know this is already a pretty long video, so there's a lot more to talk about. It's that big of a month. There's a lot to break down. So hopefully you can check that out also and get a complete picture. I love you.